everywhere there were municipal pools, an adult hated these children so much that they were pouring these chemicals into the pool to prevent them from swimming. Well, you remember in the Bible, in the New Testament, when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. And I said, yes. He said, well, our children all over the country are going to have a chance to see a black man and a white man sitting here together, friend.
Okay, so in 1969, when Black Americans were still prevented from swimming alongside white people, an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood broke the color barrier. When faced with the choice of integrating the pool in Campti, the town decided to close the pool instead and fill it with garbage. Hi, my name's Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel, where we've been talking about American identity and sharing our family stories and researching them and hidden history and all of that beautiful stuff. And today, I want to tell you a story about Louisiana. I went to Louisiana for the first time. Unbelievably, I can't believe it's been this long, but 3 years ago. I have romanticized going to Campti, Louisiana my entire life until this point. Now, I didn't know anything about Campti except for what I had seen on the census records, and I was just trying to piece together what was her life like in Louisiana before she moved to New York and basically, reinvented herself. And when I got to Campti, some distant cousins met me there, and we met at what is now, well, actually, I don't know what it is now, but it was an old bank, I believe, that turned into a museum. And across the street was what looked like an old community pool center. But the pool, well, that's what I want to tell you about today. But the town faced a major setback during the Civil War. During the final years, Union soldiers on their return from battle set fire to the entire town, and they spared only the Veterans Hospital and the Catholic Church. Now, I actually went to this Catholic church because most of my family are buried in the cemetery, and it's a white church on a hill, and it's a beautiful place. It's so quiet, so peaceful, so old. This devastation marked the beginning of a challenging era for Campti, Louisiana. And when I was there, I was pretty stunned by how it looked. Visiting Campti today, it's really hard to reconcile the vibrant history with the current state. So an article written, calling Campti the poorest town in America. Now, before I tell you what happened to the Campti swimming pool, though, I want to tell you about another swimming pool, if you could call it a swimming pool. And this pool is in the gentler world of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Okay, so in 1969, when Black Americans were still prevented from swimming alongside white people, an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood broke the color barrier. Black citizens were still not embraced as equal participants in public life. And this status was reflected at many community pools across the country, with white people preventing black people from sharing the water with them. And it was in this atmosphere that Mr. Rogers performs this simple but meaningful act in episode 1065.
In the water, chilling away, in the water, gonna trouble the water.
Oh, there's Officer Clemens. Hi, Officer Clemens. Come in.
Rogers, how are you?
Fine. Won't you sit down?
Oh, sure.
I was constantly talking with Fred about contemporary things that were going on. We were just coming through the area of intense civil rights struggle in America. And I had marched, and I was particularly sensitive to the young children in those swimming pools in Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta, Knoxville, Baton Rouge. Everywhere there were municipal pools, an adult hated these children so much that they were pouring these chemicals into the pool to prevent them from swimming. And I said, Fred, we've got to do something. Talk to the ministers and talk to the people at the seminary and stuff. And he said, well, friends, I need to think about it. Let's see, what can we do?
It's so warm, I was just putting some water on my feet.
Oh, it sure is.
Would you like to join me?
It looks awfully enjoyable, but I don't have a towel or anything.
Oh, you share mine.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh,
Come along.
man.
I'll put some more water in here.
Oh.
We're in a constant dialogue about how we grow spiritually, how we're handed something sometimes that is too heavy for us to carry, but we get muscles, our spiritual muscles get stronger. And he said, well, you remember in the Bible, in the New Testament, when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. And I said, yes. He said, well, our children all over the country are going to have a chance to see a black man and a white man sitting here together, friends, as friends. And they're going to talk about our differences, but that we are still friends with our feet in the same pool. They are going to see me telling you to use my towel. I'm taking the brick that was discarded, that was no use to the builder, black, gay, poor, uneducated, relatively speaking, and who did not come with the right kind of blue blood. And that's whose feet I'm going to dry.
I'm so proud of you, Francois.
Oh, thank you, Fred. I like being a human being right here and now.
Blacks and whites didn't share the same pools. And Mr. Rogers, with the simple gesture, taught a lesson in equality and humanity that resonated far beyond his little neighborhood. But let's return to the quiet streets of Campti. The story of the local pool there takes a different turn, unfortunately. So when I was there, one of my cousins who I was talking to told me that the pool was filled with trash. And I was like, the pool's filled with trash? You know, why is it? I mean, what's going on? And she said that when Louisiana was desegregating everything, including pools, that when faced with the choice of integrating the pool in Campti, the town decided to close the pool instead and fill it with garbage. I've thought about that pool a lot. And I've thought a lot about what that has represented for the area. Now, unlike mandated policies, desegregation in parks hinged on community efforts. So obviously that's going to vary widely, right, from location to location. And so pools became a place of protest, just like lunch counters and buses during the fight for civil rights. In 1964, a group of black and white people jumped into a segregated pool at a motel in St. Augustine, Florida. This enraged the manager and he poured acid in the water. But even in 1969, so when Mr. Rogers does this is a revolutionary act. It's revolutionary. And I think even people my age cannot even begin to truly understand how incredible Mr. Rogers really was. So they don't even just share a pool, though. They share something else. So Rogers knew that the pools continued to refuse entry to black people in 1969, and racial tensions were rising. Martin Luther King Jr. had just been assassinated. So he sent this deliberate message. It reminds me a lot of scenes in scripture where Christ is washing his disciples' feet and he's toweling them off. And I think there's this symbolism. Not even think, like I know that there is this symbolism of what it means to wash someone's feet, or to be sharing that space, sharing that water with someone. It's an intimate thing, and it was a revolutionary thing. And so, you know, I think back to what was happening in Campti, Louisiana, and instead of integrating, to have the pool be filled with trash so no one can use it. And it's still sitting there. I went in 2019, I think, 2020, maybe it was 2021. The pool's still filled with trash in 2021. And he later said, quote, "I am a black gay man and Fred washed my feet." So what does this tell us? Well, when I was thinking about this, I've been thinking about the story of the Campti pool for such a long time. And I didn't want to just talk about the pool and just kind of leave it like that. Talk about it and be like, wow, isn't this depressing, this trash heap? And this is where my family has, came from. This is where our family story originates. And this is what's there when you go right now. Because there's always another side. And I loved reading about what Mr. Rogers did. And what resonated with me is that Mr. Rogers, his whole shtick, his whole thing is about, won't you be my neighbor? And, as a Christian, I feel like if we could just do what Jesus said and love our neighbor as ourselves, wow, 99.9% of the world's woes would be gone. I really believe it. And I love the way Mr. Rogers asked that question. He's saying, won't you be my neighbor? Can we be neighbors? Can we share this together? And he was just such an incredible example. I'm just blown away. When you look at some things that we say, well, that's a children's show, that's for kids. And it's like, he was teaching everyone a lesson. He was teaching everyone a lesson. And so I want to end this on a positive note about thinking, who can we share a towel with? Who can you reach out to or include that, we're told, oh no, those two people don't get along. Oh no, these two groups do not get along. They cannot be friends. I'm sure that whoever you are or whatever your background is, there are people that you've been told, oh yeah, we don't with those people. Or how could we? Like, we don't. And and we don't have to subscribe to that. We can reject that. I think we can ask the question that Fred Rogers asks is, won't you be my neighbor? And, well, what does that mean? And it can mean a lot. It could be something revolutionary, something that can change the world. Simple acts are what change the world. Simple acts between neighbors, between people in the community. Um, it's doing the unexpected, loving thing that changes hearts and minds. Pools were not privy to the same desegregation rules as other places, and you can see here, like, rules don't change hearts and minds. That pool in Campti is filled with trash. It's filled with trash. Nobody gets to use it now. I think that this is a beautiful lesson. And it's something that we need today. We need another Fred Rogers. I feel like that's what we need. We don't need any more people pointing out all the reasons why we shouldn't be getting along. We need to take the step ourselves of looking around and offering somebody the unexpected, and see where it takes us. So let me know if you saw that episode of Mr. Rogers, and if you know about Campti, Louisiana. Some of you probably do. Hope that you will take the time to reflect, like I am taking the time to reflect on the people that I've been told shouldn't be my neighbor, and invite them to sit with me anyway. We'll talk soon.